Good night, everyone. Tonight, God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Irma Chess Quiz. Around here, get a little short news on tonight, and it pretty much is going to be history. You know, we've been getting a lot of, I know we got a lot of history in 2022. Now we step into 2023 and we still getting history. But this is pretty much old news, but it still had been posted yesterday. You know, so Harris, you know, a great granddaughter of Victor becomes the first black woman justice on the Supreme Court. You know, so Kyra Harris voting made history when she was sworn in on Michigan Supreme Court as the first black female justice in court, 185 years history. You know, she sat down for an interview with CNN. You know, anchor Harlow, um, a landmark moment. A black Supreme Court justice had been sworn into the highest court, you know, for the first time in 185 years history. You know, so this is amazing. And she was faithful discharged the duties of the office of Supreme Court Justice, you know, according to the best of her ability. You know, that is Justice Kyra Harrison voted. You know, her appointment come at a significant time for Michigan Supreme Court. Now, last year the court had a number of key decisions, you know, but they all in abortion rights, you know, discrimination against LGBTQ people, and ruled that one person bring jury, and ruled that one person, you know, they can't issue indictment against state officer. You know, it led to charges being dismissed against a former governor in connection with the Flint water crisis. You know, and at this term, the court also has a lot in its plate. You know, but Justice Bolden appointment is not only history. You know, but wait until you hear her family legacy of injustice in the hands of the legal system. You know, Kara said one day, you know, a little girl, you know, came to her and say, can we go to college? You know, and she had to look at the little girl. And she said, yes, I'm a girl and I'm in college. You know, and she turned to the little girl next to her and said, see, I told you. You know, now that was amazing. You know, you encourage someone else, a little child, being encouraged as a child, you know, letting somebody else know, you know, just because you're a girl, you can go to college. Just because you're a girl, you can be a lawyer. Just because you're a girl, you can be a doctor. You know, they can be anything they want to do. And that's good that you have so many black women is coming, making history. You know, that's setting an example for any other little girls that coming up that want to go to college and be just like you. You know, so Kara said, Kara said this had been a long journey, you know, for all of us. You know, Kara will be the first black woman ever to serve on the Michigan Supreme Court. You know, history was made as Michigan governor. Winston Wentworth appointed Bolton to the state highest court. You know, 185 years. Well, never had an African American woman on the state highest court. She on the highest court, a black woman, black African woman. You know, made it to the highest court. You know, it's about time. It's just been an honor. You know, and just been so surreal to be appointed to the highest court. You know, a store owner for a receipt, you know, and he was beaten. He asked for a receipt and he was beaten and he was thrown into a local river in a corner, and it been an accidental drown. You know, so nothing wasn't served. You know, as a result, the murderer walked free because they said it was just an accidental drowning. You know, but drove Bolton to law school. It drove her to law school. You know, now once she realized that there was something, you know, something that happened in her family. You know, you know, a man beating somebody, throw him in a river, and then get off of him and just walk away. That what made her. That's one of the reasons that made her want to go to law school. You know, less than 100 years ago, she just felt the need to be a part of a justice system, and to go to law school and find her way, and it's her great grandfather, launching the reason that you believe that you're going to be a lawyer, so that's why I say that one of the reasons, seeing somebody just beat somebody and just throw them in the river and just walk away free, and also her grandfather launching the reason that she believed that she can become a lawyer. It was definitely a large part of it. Her grandfather pretty much was a large part of her going to law school. Now 2 terms in a state, say, and then take a leap and a chance of making history. Now we need to make sure that we have justice on our Michigan Supreme Court. That believe in equal justice under the law. Now she didn't win that first race. But when she was seated on the court, it was open up this summer. And she was a governor first church, the governor first church. So even though you may lose, sometimes, but still, hang on in there, cause you never know. You got to keep on trying till one of them doors open. She didn't win that race, but a door opened for her to make it through another winning door. And through generation, so the governor first church, and she also have a 5-month old child. So she been working hard. A month having a little child. Youngster, and the child don't know that the mother made history, not yet. But she can keep all these memories from the child get at a certain age. She can let that child know your mama made history. So through generation, our family had gone from luncheon to law school. you know. And it's amazing that we can make this type of progress for our family, you know. So, Kamala is a vice president, so that good you have that encouragement in the family, so they ask her, what do you say to people who look at the state of racism in America today and don't see it as enough progress, but it's absolutely unacceptable that in 2022 that we are just having the first black woman on the Michigan Supreme Court. So all this racist that still is going on, they still have black people is rising up to the top, rising over all the chaos that's going on. So there has never had been a black woman that's been a governor in the United States history. That she stated it's not acceptable, but we still have to work hard and we still have to try to break down barriers because that's what we're doing right now. We breaking barriers right now. History is being made. So Kyra Harris is the first black woman on the Supreme Court. And we also have Kamala Harris, the first black woman as a vice president. So we breaking those barriers. So many black women are breaking barriers. And that's amazing. That's a good thing. And we got to keep on trying to break those barriers. Don't never have fear thinking you can't do something. These two people here is an example for any other black woman that wants to launch in anything that they want to do. So that's a history of Kyra Harris. She's gonna be the first black woman on the Supreme Court, the highest Supreme Court. And you also have Kamala. As a black woman, as a vice president, the first black woman as a president. So we breaking barriers right now, and we're gonna continue on breaking these barriers. So I also have news come from Ronald Martin unfiltered. A woman had called a cop on a black man standing in front of his house. Now he's standing in front of his own house. Just like to see, and they wanted to see, the person wanted to see his lease. A white woman wanted to see his lease. So Dawson Burns and his partner received it. They just moved to Seattle. So while standing in his yard, Dawson Burns was approached by a white woman who accused him of being a criminal, demanding to see his lease to prove that he lived there, and called the police. If he didn't get her, let her see the lease, she was calling the police. So she called the police at the time because he said he would not put out his lease. So Ronald Martin, unfiltered, also spoke with Dawson about the incident during Thursday edition. So a white woman passing by and called the police because a black man was standing in his yard. Now, when the cops came, they asked to see the papers to see if he really lived there. So they came and also said the same thing. They wanted to see his lease. They wanted to make sure he lived there. But they had his partner, was standing right next to him. His partner was a white dude, but they did not question him at all. So he really had to show papers, to see if but he refused to show his papers, So they did talk to his landlord. He stated that demanding to prove papers that he lived there. So the Ronald Martin unfiltered, he stated that no one else have to show papers that they live in their own home unless they commit some kind of crime. If he was in the yard committing a crime or digging somebody in his backyard or doing something he hadn't been doing, then you could say it looks suspicious. But somebody just standing in the yard and not doing anything or not looking suspicious, somebody just driving on the street should have the right to ask for that person to see papers. But black folks do. Jason Burns and his partner receivingly just moved there, while standing in their yard. So the woman who accused him of being a criminal and she demanded to see his lease. So the woman said there been a misunderstanding. When she was driving by, she saw an individual behind the house, and so she stopped. So she saw him in his yard, and she had to stop. Providing all the windows are closed. She thought it was suspicious because all his windows was closed. All his windows was closed, and it looked like it was hot as the sun is being. Now she back up, and then she see an individual crouching again, and she she asks, "What are you doing at my neighbor's house?" So she asked him. See, she think her neighbors, who she know, she think they still live there. He said a lady was there with 2 kids. He started saying no one live here but 2 kids. They just moved in the house. So then she greeted. Then she called 911. So the woman think it's her neighbor house. She thinks it's a neighbor house and thought it was suspicious that a black dude was in the yard because she thought the people still live in the house. Thought he killed the people or something. So the police came, and he stated that you're doing all this for someone that live here and pay rent here. And she driving by, stopping her car and seeing somebody in that backyard, and she thought it was suspicious because she thought it was her neighbor lived there with the 2 kids, but they didn't move out. Sound like this woman was harassing. The landlord came and said it sounded like the woman was harassing him and his partner. So he stated that they can't stand here, in their backyard where they live at. He stated he guessed she doesn't believe that a black man live here. And they said they had just moved there 3 weeks ago before the incident happened. So Randy Williamson, the property owner, he had to come and get involved. He believed that it's really weird that it should to have him was standing behind his own house in the yard right here, and she pulled up on the street and saw him in the backyard. So he went inside but came back because he looked out the window and saw her still there, and she was outside, and he asked her, "Do you need something?" And she said, "Yes, I do. What are you doing behind my neighbor's house?" Whoever she is talking about that live here got 2 kids and they don't live here anymore. So Rhonda asked, "Is the partner black or white?" And he stated white, and she didn't question him at all. The police came, did not question his partner at all. They constantly was questioning because they could have asked the partner, do he live there? You know, but she was driving by and she just stopped because she thought her neighbor had still lived there, and then she seen a black man in the backyard. That's all she had to do was ask, do her friend still live there? He could have told her no. So then she see a black man standing in the yard. You know, and three. And then she then asks why he here. Where is her neighbors? This is her neighbor house. That's what she's telling him. And she then asks her. Then she asked to see papers. And when he didn't show no paper, she called the police. Then the police came, demanded papers, and he had a partner also was standing right there. Did not ask him no question at all. Because all they had to do was ask him, do he live here? So when you standing on your front porch or in your backyard, you don't have to show no papers that you live there unless you're committing a crime. Unless you're committing a crime. She was in the wrong to be driving and then stop and ask, what are you doing? And behind the house that her friends live in. Instead of approaching him and asking him, do such and such still live here? And he could answer her question, then that could have been done. But you can't just be driving by and stop and want to ask somebody to show papers or do you live there? So I think she was in the wrong because she should have, there was minding their business. She driving on the road and stopped all in the street. Yes, they showed the video. She stopped on the curb, and stalled confusion. So she should have asked if her neighbor still lived there. It's all about communication. You have to have communication before you go off and before you can call 911. You have to have communication. If you would have had communication to find out, what's going on or what happened to her neighbor, the question could have been answered. Sometimes we have to think before we act. I had to learn all that myself. You have to think before you react. You have to think before you speak. And it's all about communication because a lot of times it can be misunderstanding. With stall confusion without having communication, just jump to the wrong idea. She was in the wrong because her friends that used to live there no longer live there no more. And it had two people that lived there, but nobody asked the other person no question. And everything could have been solved if they would have just asked him, do he live here? And all she had to do was ask a simple question, do my neighbor still live in this house? And they could have answered her and told her no, and that could have been done with. So she called the police when there was no crime committed. No crime was committed because he wasn't doing anything wrong in the backyard, but just standing in his backyard minding his business. So he was there with his partner, but no one asked him questions. And if you in your house, or you outside, and no crime is being committed, you should have to show no papers that you live there. Only if things are suspicious, if you committing a crime, then that's something different. But you just in your yard minding your business, you just on your front porch minding your business, and no crime is being committed, you shouldn't have to show no papers when you're on your own property. Unless you're doing something you don't have no business doing, and it making it look suspicious. But you just minding your business, you chilling in the backyard, you chilling on a porch, you shouldn't have to show no papers to no one. So they called his landlord, and he said the same thing. It's in his yard. Why? He have to show in the papers. If he wasn't doing any crime, he shouldn't have to show no papers. So now we're gonna talk about another incident happened on New Year Eve, but this one here is in Alabama. There was one day, and there was 9 hurt in a shooting near New Year Eve party in Alabama. So another killing on New Year Eve. You know, one person was killed and 9 was hurt in a shooting a few blocks away from 1,000, you know, what people was at. You know, so someone in a crowd, you know, could have. That's why it's so many. You know, 9 got hurt and 1 got dead because it was a party. They had so many people there. You know, had thousands of people. You know, um, was there celebrating the New Year Eve party downtown Mobile, Alabama. You know, so the television news footage showed the police officer running and on a horseback rushing to the area where the shooting took place. You know, so about 45 minutes before the midnight, you know, before midnight, this happened before midnight. You know, Saturday, the man who was killed was 24 years old, but did not release his name. You know, but those hurt, you know, range aged to 17 to 57. So you have people in their 50s got shot, got hurt, you know, and their injuries range from non-life threatened to severe. You know, so you had 9 people was hurt. There was ages from 17 to 57. You know, so the shooting happened a few blocks away from the main stage. You know, from the Moon Pie over Mobile Festival. You know, so a little bit more, they were by the stage with all that shooting. You know, so the event continued on with fireworks and a moon pie dropping from the downtown building at the midnight to mark the street of 2023. You know, so the shooter and the person killed appear to know each other. You know, so this was no out of the blue random shooting. You know, they said the shooter and the person they killed, you know, they know each other, but they're still investigating on what really happened. So they think that will give some comfort to all of us downtown that this was not just a random shooting. You know, they stated the shooter know the victim. You know, so something had happened between the victim and the shooter. You know, something kicked off. You know, for all that to occur. You know, so they're saying it wasn't a random. You know, this shooting, all this shooting are automatic. You know, it was the shooter know the victim, but you know they're still investigating. We don't know why. You know, what happened, why they were shooting. You know, but if he knew the victim, something had went on, and they're still investigating on it. You know, so we talked about history. You know, breaking down barriers. You know, many black women. You know, breaking barriers. You know, we got a first black woman, vice president, a first black woman in the highest Supreme Court. You know, they're just making things happen. You know, and they set an example for other little girls. Just like she said, a little girl asked her, "Could I go to college too?" She said, "Well, I'm a girl. You know, I'm going to college." You know, so they encourage a whole lot of other young black women that who wants to grow up to be a judge, to be a lawyer, to be a doctor, to be anything they want to be. They encourage so many little girls. You know, so many people. You know, so they breaking barriers, and they want everyone else to be breaking their barriers. You know, because at one time, black women couldn't even try to step forward trying to be anything. Like she said, this was a long journey. You know, but now you have so many black people is coming forward, just being top lawyers, you know, top doctors, you know, all kind of stuff. History. I was reading all kind of history in 2022. You know, so we're gonna see what's gonna be going on in 2023. You know, so we got this history is going on. We're gonna keep on letting this history go on. We're gonna keep on having all these black African Americans breaking barriers. You know, so we talked about this young man that was standing in this backyard. You know, and a white woman had was driving by, just stopped her car on the curb because she saw an individual in the backyard. You know, she thought her friends were still living there, but still her having communication and asking him, do they still live there? She just started an argument, and you just show me some papers, or I'm gonna call the police. You know, so I say it's all about communication. You know, you either should have had called your friends, or you should have had communication, you know, and asked him, you know, if do her friends still live there, you know, and that could have been solved. You know, you either could have called your friends or you could have had communication with him and asked him, do her friends still live there? And the answer could have been solved. You know, but so we also talk about this shooting this shooting on in Alabama New Year Eve. You know, they were having a festival. You know, it was time to calm down. You know, for New Year Eve, they had like 15 more minutes for the shutdown. You know, and the shooting break out. So after all the shooting break out, you had one day, then you had 9 hurt. You know, but then at the end, they said the shooter knew the victim, but they're still investigating to find out why the shooting took place. You know, why, why it occurred. You know, so they don't know what started the fight. They don't know what happened. They're still looking into it. You know, and that's a shame how the year just started. And before the year had kicked in, yesterday I just talked about the shooting for New Year Eve in New Orleans. You know, so we got all this shooting and killing going on, and the year just started. You know, the year just started. You know, so these guns have to get off the street. You know, and just like I talked about yesterday, they got programs. You know, I'm gonna be trying to get all these programs to be active for so many people to get in these programs. You know, so you can find something to do instead of picking up a gun. You know, we bringing in a new year. If you have 15 more minutes to go when the shooting broke out. You know, so it's after New Year's now, and they're still shooting guns when they were supposed to stop at 12:30 midnight. You know, so all these guns gonna have to be pulled off the street. You know, all these rules, they gonna be new rules and new policy for this year. You know, it ain't gonna be that easy to purchase guns no more out of the store. You know, because all these guns have to be pulled off the street, and we gonna have to toughen up these rules. You know, this year is 2023 with new rules and new policy. You know, we got to stop all this shooting, all this killing. You know, you got all this history. We trying to break these barriers. You know, we need everyone to live. You know, not getting shot, not getting killed. You know, we got history we trying to break. You know, so we need everyone to live. You know, and put down the guns. You know, they're still shooting, and here this was 2 days after New Year's. You know, so that's all. That's all the short news. It was kind of long news this time. You know, this all the news I have for you on today, and we're gonna continue on breaking barriers. You know, so y'all have a blessed night, and I see y'all on the next video.